So I wanted to share my thoughts because I felt like I didn't really get into this topic like I should. It's part two of the whole drama that's unfolding with Pastor Driscoll. And I just want to take time to develop a scenario that I have been doing a series called Saving Grace. The story is going to take on a twist, and the episode one and two is about the story of saving Grace, Grace being the main character. But I'm going to incorporate what is going on here with the whole Pastor Driscoll storyline. I'm going to change the names, I'm going to change some things up. But what I want to talk about is that what happened after I posted that video, I went to church and the response is very strange that a lot of people don't want to get mixed up in controversy, which is personally totally an individual choice. So, with that said, I don't want to stir up controversy. But what is frightening to me is that when we think about how the topic in the sermon today was judging others, we're not to judge others. No, we are to use proper discernment in discerning, which is not judgment. If we were to go back to our past sins, we would be condemned to death. So I want to say something here. In my past, sorry, I had an itch. um, if I were to be judged based on my past sins, the lifestyle that I lived over 25 years ago, I was in the waitress restaurant industry. One of the things a friend of mine who I called friend, and I say that lightly, she was a stripper and she took me to the strip clubs. And when you see these things take place in a strip club, I would call that it. I'm going to be very careful with my words here. That's the only place that a strip club, a stripping act belongs, if you call it that. Now, there was a lot of contention back then that they wanted to close them down because it was close to a school. And they did close them down. Okay, so that you know, there was a lot of protest, and I became one of those people that eventually protest because of other reasons. And I became the opposition because that quote friend that invited me into the club industry befriended me, and it was just we went our separate ways. And I feel I need to share this side of my testimony. There's a lot more to it than what I explained. This was over 25 years ago, and there were people assaulting people in those clubs. And what happens is you bring that kind of stuff into a church environment. And let me tell you, there was more than just stripping. Okay, there was drugs, cocaine, heroin, meth, all kinds of stuff that came with that environment. And I saw it, so did everybody else and everybody that was involved. In fact, most of the strippers were getting high and doing crack and doing everything else. In fact, even a year later, after I had moved out of the area, most of those girls that were stripping at the club were all cracked out, and they were skinny as a rail, and they just the condition they were in. It was just they were destroyed by the drugs. I mean, the money was good because they made money, but the whole point of this discussion is to tell you that something my ex-husband explained to me. It was about the spiritual nature, Baal and Asher, and, well, in this case, talking about Jezebel and Ahab. And little did I know how seduction worked. I was seduced into this. I didn't realize I was being seduced into it. I was what the Bible called a gullible woman, being seduced into this environment. Now, me being a waitress and a server and making decent money, not making a lot, but decent money, was asked to perform. And I'm thinking to myself, why would I do that? I'm already in the tipping industry. I can make just decent money. I don't need to do this. But the seduction is real. And let's fast forward how I got to Springfield, Missouri. It wasn't that long after that I was separated from my husband. I ended up in that area of Springfield, Missouri, where James River Church is. So as I had traveled up towards Nixa, Missouri, which is not that far from James River, I got familiar with the area because I ended up having surgery at the Mercy Hospital, which is in Springfield, Missouri. And I always passed James River. And I always wondered, because the only place to go to Trader Joe's was going through Springfield. And there was only one Trader Joe's, and that was in Springfield, Missouri. My town didn't have a Trader Joe's. The biggest, closest town or city was Springfield, Missouri. And I had to travel a half hour out of my way to go to Trader Joe's. So I had to get used to that commute, which was going through the mountains of Branson, Missouri. And I'm sharing this story because of the irony of what that area is like. I come to understand that there was a very conservative town where I lived, and then a very liberal area, like that of James River, that area. So I can see why maybe there's a mixed reaction, because there's a lot of men and women that are in the stripping industry up there. And I noticed that right away because of the people I interacted with up there. But being that I lived in a conservative town like Branson, if you're familiar with Branson, Missouri, it's a very Christian, conservative area. But I didn't have that there was no strip clubs or anything like that in Branson, which I was very happy with. I was very happy. It was a clean town, no bars, nothing like that. But if you got up to Springfield, it was kind of dirty, and it was just kind of, I don't know what to say. It's kind of sleazy, to say the least. I'm sorry to say that. I don't want to give you the wrong impression of Springfield, Missouri, but it's just my opinion. Just saying it. So all this is not really shocking to me, to tell you that what happened to Pastor Driscoll is not shocking. Now that reaction from that crowd, whether it was mixed or more supportive or whatever happened, my reaction is that the response that it's getting on the internet is more interesting. But the one-on-one, what's going on the ground level, is interesting, because a lot of people at church today aren't reacting. They don't want to be involved. They don't want anything to do with this discussion. They just want to conduct their church and do what they need to do to keep things going in a way that God wants them to conduct church. Meaning they don't want to be involved in the controversy, which I think is respectable. But in my opinion, this is a discussion you need to have because of the drugs and what comes with the drugs and addiction, and the strip club industry is a big part of it. It's just a reality with addiction. There is that side of that shady lifestyle that comes with it. Now, what Pastor Mark Driscoll did, he opened up a can of worms for them, and that area in that region, when I talk about it in Saving Grace, look for this episode to come up. We're going to address it. I'm going to address it in that format, and you will see that there's a lot to uncover. So, episode 3 and 4 and 5, I'm going to expose it a little bit more in that episode. That's what it's meant for, is to expose this in a way that is going to touch on that topic. And that topic being ashram, the pole, the stripping industry, the drugs, everything. So look for it in my next episode. Thank you. God bless you, and have a good day.